Hey, we're live. I think. Welcome
Mhm.
everybody to the Unready Room. I'm Dan Gunther. With me, of course, as always, the amazing, the resplendent, the wonderful, the
No.
well-read Brandi
Yes.
Jackola.
Okay, I'll take well read.
Appropriate for this episode. Hey Brandi, how's it going?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Dan?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this one. I feel like that's something maybe I say just about every week, but gosh, I liked this episode. Anyway.
Yes, I did too.
So welcome everybody. An appropriate greeting as well today. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I was just looking over some of my favorite quotes from the episode, and that one was up near the top. I love the name you picked because I was thinking of something to do with the Hysperians, but man, Hyrel's line about it really being more of an oubliette. I just love that.
Yeah, and how many people in America actually know what that is? I do. But I
Yeah.
watched a lot of documentaries on old castles in Europe. So, yeah.
Uh, hey, if a Star Trek episode can teach people new words, that's awesome too. I'm all for that.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you everybody for joining. I see a lot of familiar faces. Thank you for joining us live. I really appreciate that. And of course, if you're watching later, we really appreciate you as well. So thank you for joining our discussion about labyrinths. Yeah, I mean, a Star Trek crowd is already pretty self-selecting when it comes to nerdiness and
Mhm.
uh, knowledge about arcane things, right? So, yeah, yeah, absolutely. So let's discuss this episode. So, we start out with the Breen, and we get that uh, basically in that huge cavernous ship. They're all pounding their things, and nope. Dangers of a live show, folks. Wow. They're all banging their staffs. No, that's not much better. Wow, jeez. Okay. This is why podcasts and pre-recorded videos are the preferred. Wow. All right. That was fun.
So sorry.
They're all chanting. Let's just say they're chanting. Chanting with
Yeah.
the use of percussive instruments, I guess.
Mm.
Um and they've got the body of Locke there, and Maul, of course, as his widow, although she hopes to be an ex-widow in the future. It's Star Trek. These things can happen, I guess. Um, and they were, yeah, they're celebrating or they're commemorating the loss of Locke, and this leader Rune very obviously just using this for his own ends. And I was genuinely surprised, and like, this guy is not playing it chill when he like gets pissed off at everybody for yelling for the Scion. Like, guy's
Yeah,
got no chill.
he is extremely self-involved and very passive aggressive too. The whole though he left us and strayed from the Breen way, we're still gonna honor him in death. Like I guess,
Mhm.
just very I mean, the guy's dead, and you still got to get your digs in. You are a massive jerk.
Mhm. Yeah, and his whole like, I mean, Maul is, trying to stay alive basically by saying she's going to bring him back. They're going to use this technology to bring him back, and everybody's kind of like jazzed about that except for Rune, obviously, who, says to her kind of Soto voice, like, if you talk to my men again, I will, what is he, eviscerate you or something like that. Like, he's, yeah,
Mm.
not the most subtle guy in the world.
No, and the thing is he's one of those typical fascist guys
Mhm.
that it's his vision or nobody's vision. and everybody better fall in line because if you don't, he will grind you under his heel or whatever.
Yeah.
And, uh, and I'm like, "Yep, let's see how long he lasts before somebody kills him." That's
Mhm.
basically what I started thinking because he just keeps increasingly becoming more unhinged
Mhm.
throughout
Yeah.
a very short amount of time, really.
Yeah. That brings me to something that, like, you're noting of a very short amount of time, I think sadly is a byproduct of this shortened, like, even for modern Star Trek, modern Discovery anyway, a shortened season of only 10
Mm.
episodes, and, like, a lot happens in every episode, and it kind of feels like, yeah, they've like, "Oh, we have to kind of, turn on the turbo on this engine a little bit to get us to where we need to be." And I'm feeling that a little bit, which is a little bit too bad, I think.
It is, I think this story deserved more breathing room.
Mhm.
Um, Granted, I haven't seen all the episodes yet. Yeah, yeah, I have access to the series finale, but have I watched it yet? No, because I am not
Mm.
ready. I
I've
am
had
not
I've
ready.
I've only seen up to this episode, so rest assured, any speculation I have or anything, I've not seen past this episode. I don't know anything.
Yeah,
I have
but
theories, but I know nothing.
the show deserved better. Even if it wasn't
Mhm.
their last season, this show deserved better. It deserved at least 3 more episodes to really
Yeah.
make it not feel like so rushed, so compacted.
Mhm. Yeah, and, I'll get this out of the way at the top because this is just a recurring thing, like, no Saru, no Owoshikun, no Detmer. Um, I understand real life stuff is happening, but I still feel like if they knew it was the final season, they would have, made a bigger effort or done something differently. So it feels like we're missing out, and that
Mhm.
sucks. That's not a good impression to have of a final season. I feel like I don't wanna use the language as, like, getting cheated out of something, but it feels like, yeah, we're not getting what we would have gotten if other people knew other things and other decisions were made, so,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Well, so from there, we go to Discovery arriving at the Badlands, and I have to say the Badlands look pretty gorgeous. They did a good update, I think, on this.
I think they've never looked better.
Mm, absolutely. Um, and, yeah, we get the archivist, I guess, Hyrel, who, can I say I just love this character? She's an Afrosian, I think they've confirmed that now, whom we've only seen, like, in Star Treks 4 and 6. So that's, nice update to an alien species.
So that was the Federation president in Star Trek 6, right? Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
that's right.
Played like Kurtwood Smith, who has been in
Mhm.
other Star Trek projects in other makeup.
Absolutely, yeah. Um, and yeah, Hyrel, I really like her. She's got this, like, Star Trek has done a few librarians over the years, and they're always a little bit quirky and kind of funny, which, I know librarians, and I don't think they would be insulted for me to say they're kind of the quirkier and funnier people I know, and I think that's a good thing. And I think she really fits well into that, like, from Mr. Atoz back in TOS all the way up to Hyrel now. I like Star Trek librarians, and I want to work at this library.
Right? I wanna live at that library. That probably wouldn't go well. I love librarians. I actually was a library aide when I was in
Mm,
high school.
yeah.
And that was back when you still had the paper card catalog, as we also see in this episode. I'm like, "Oh, an honest to God card catalog." And,
Yeah.
here's the thing about librarians is, yes, they're quirky and fun and very, very knowledgeable. Do not cross them.
Mhm.
You will not like what happens.
We'll get to that because there's a part in this episode I really liked with her. Um, so yeah, they've detected there's a Quajon aboard as well, and they're inviting him to view something that they have, one of the last remaining artifacts of that lost world, of course.
My
Um,
heart.
there is an interesting point raised by, again, I read Keith DeCandido's review because I really like his very measured and very honest reviews of Star Trek. And he said he didn't think this, but his wife thought this at one point, and it kind of makes sense. Um, his wife was a little worried when they were watching it that there was something sinister with the library, and because
Mm.
Quajon was a destroyed world and Book was one of the last remaining Quajon people, they would like archive him. The all sinister and all that stuff. And I'm like, that feels like a very Star Trek thing to do, but I'm glad they didn't take that route in this. I hadn't thought of it when I watched the episode, but that's a turn that it could have taken. That would have been interesting.
I understand how that thought would come about, but at the same time, if they did stuff like that, nobody would use that
Mhm.
library. Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody. And they have obviously so many texts and artifacts and probably art and such that's so precious that they have to keep moving every once in a while so that no one can, basically predict where they're going to be unless they have something, that'll get them into the library itself. But can you imagine the riches that are stored in that place? And
Mhm.
of course, I don't mean money, but I mean knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and it's just, yeah, I don't think they would do that. Never even crossed my mind.
No, me neither, but it was an interesting thought while I was watching it or while I was reading this review. The reality of it is much cooler. I love that they have preserved this cutting from the world route of
Mm,
Quajon, which, I mean, let's put the pieces together. He's now in possession of this cutting from the world root of Quajon. They're seeking this technology that can renew and restore life. Um, I don't know exactly what form it's going to take, but I think we're going to see some sort of regeneration of something like Quajon by the end of this season. That's my guess.
honestly, if they dangle this "it could possibly restore life" thing in front of us, if they don't pay it off, it's gonna be disappointing.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I keep thinking in my mind, I hope that's not something where they were planning for season 6.
Mhm. Well,
I would be
and
very
it's
sad.
true. It's true that they did get to come back and film some additional footage for the series finale that a lot of people couldn't even attend because
Mhm.
anyway, um, yeah, so, honestly, you're building up to this thing. It's you gotta use it. You gotta use it. It's Chekhov's gun.
Mhm.
You mention it early, you gotta show it to us. You have to.
Yeah,
You have to. If you
absolutely.
don't, you're not playing fair. You're not telling a good story.
Yeah, for sure. So meanwhile, while Book's looking at this, and by the way, also, I have to say David Ajala in
Oh
that
my
scene, it was so good. And, he's not done with this episode yet either because I love him as the mental guide in Burnham's journey too, but in this scene in particular, just I absolutely bought his emotions in that scene. It was so good.
David Ajala is a genius.
Mhm,
I have seen him in multiple roles, and every single time, he makes me believe that he's that character,
mhm.
every single time. So, he could do anything, and I'd watch it.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, meanwhile, Burnham is checking out the, Labyrinths of the Mind text and, of course, flips it open, finds this technology, and, hits the button and is pulled into this mindscape, which is, I mean, it's a Trek trope. We've seen it many times. Kudos to the writers for mentioning that it's connected to her brain with a nucleonic beam, which is how the inner light tech
Mm.
made Picard experience his lifetime there. So, would have been nice if it also had the function of speeding that up, like Picard's did, so that she could be like Flash. Oh, I know where it is now. But we got to have the ticking clock on the outside as well. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, she's in recreation of the library. That's the form that this is chosen to take. And her guide is book. And again, David Ajala as this guide, I loved him. He's got this like, he's being a little bit roundabout, but he also says that like he hopes that she succeeds. And I believe him. Like I believe that this program wants her to succeed and hopes she's the right person, but isn't just going to hand it to her. She still has to prove herself. And the other thing is, anytime she kind of started to go in the right direction, this just like little twinkle in his eye that he kind of was like, oh, I love it.
Micro expressions.
Yeah.
So good at them. Just the very first time we see him as the guide, and he's like, I'm about it to be. I can't remember exactly what he said. I'm almost to a really good part. Something of that effect. He's like just reading the reading a book.
Hmm.
Just and also, I don't know if anybody saw this on Twitter, but Jörg Hillebrand was able to translate that text because it was a simple
Oh,
cipher. And yeah, go find his account on Twitter and look that up because I'm just like mind blown.
I haven't seen that. Interesting. Okay. That's cool. Um, so I want those bookshelves also.
Mm,
Just those like
oh
illuminated bookshelves. Oh, I want those
yeah,
so bad.
those drop lighting, the like the stand lighting that's like built into the wall. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
I could spend
Absolutely
a
gorgeous.
lifetime there. All that wood, all the wood,
Yeah,
beautiful.
definitely. The little quips between them too, like, my brain should have picked Tilly. That was fun, and then, like, a scene later where he's like, "And Tilly would have been just as infuriating, just so you know."
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The Breen. Okay. One of my favorite the Breen in this episode served mostly just to tick me off, but one of my favorite things is that this library is a repository of knowledge for everybody, and I get the impression that if they had just shown up, followed the rules, requested access, they would have, like, been just as welcome as the Discovery crew was, but because they're being so antagonistic and jerks, uh, Hyrel gets that amazing scene where she's being welcoming and stuff and saying the things, and then she just changes, and she's like, "No, okay, we're done."
Mhm.
Um,
Your
that
request is
was
denied.
yeah, that was great. If they'd have just played ball, that it would have been fine. Like,
Yeah.
anyway.
What I loved most is that every time Rune got more snarky, she got this look in her eyes, kind of
Mhm.
like, "You are on thin ice," and yet he can't read the room.
Yeah.
So but that's the thing with fascists like him, they're basically just afraid of
Mhm.
themselves, and so they project their insecurities onto other people, and he thinks he's being a badass by, being aggressive, and no, you're just being a dick, and you're also, causing more trouble than you need to,
Mhm.
making this much harder
Absolutely.
than it needs to be, so sucks to be you.
Yeah. Sorry. Reese in command of Discovery. This
Yeah.
this is just a little part of the episode, but I feel like he milked his time in that chair for all it was worth. Like he was doing the heroic
Mhm.
pose and the art issuing orders, and I don't know, just something about the way he carried himself. I was like, he is doing the captain thing really well.
He is, and it's not the first time we've seen him in the chair, but I think that
Mhm.
this was a and I think putting him in the chair is, of course, obviously the right thing to do, but it's also, like, really scary because there is very little they can do to stop the Breen, if anything,
Mhm.
once they get there, and then when they get there and they have to go hide in the Badlands, and they're not gonna last very long there. I mean, he's got a hard job right now. Stressed the heck out. Do you have a puppy?
I have a little puppy.
Oh my goodness!
She was
With
wanting a
the
little bit,
little
so
face.
she's kinda lost in my black shirt, but
She's so cute. I see that little face. Look at that little
aw,
face.
she's so well behaved. Here, go back down there. She was just curled up in her bed there and then put a little paw on my leg.
It's like, "Dad,
Wanted some attention.
I need loves."
She's great. Absolutely. Lucy, by the way, if anybody's wondering.
It's a great
New
name.
addition to the family, so she's hanging out. She's doing good. Yeah, so, yeah, Reese in the captain's chair did awesome, I think, for sure. Um, oh, yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about was, Burnham, trying to figure out the trick behind this, right? And this is something we've seen before. I was really, kind of put in the mind of Janeway in the episode Sacred Ground,
Yes.
where, like, she has to undergo all these religious trials and stuff, but she's like, "No, there's a scientific thing behind it. I just gotta figure out what it is, yada, yada, yada." And, in the end, like, she just kinda keeps getting thwarted in that. And Burnham here also, in a way, is kind of trying to peek behind the curtain, get the shortcut, get the answer, try to convince them, like, "No, no, I'm the right person. You just have to trust me. Just give it to me." But no, she's got to go through the thing, and ultimately does. So uh, it was a Trek trope, but a well done Trek trope, I think.
I agree because, she's already stressed out knowing that there is a short amount of time in which to get things done, not only because the test itself will shut down after a certain number of minutes and, destroy her brain with it, but also because the brain are gonna be there, and she's got to
Mhm,
have this she has to get this clue, and I understand why she's looking for the shortcut. Because when she finally gets down to what the test actually is, and she doesn't even know that's what the test is,
mhm.
it all becomes clear why she's acting the way she's acting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the ultimate resolution to the test, like, I mean, we're watching and we're not surprised because we know it's gotta resolve, but, I thought that was well done, that, like, the explanation that it was the, self-reflection and, being honest with yourself and what your shortcomings are, that's what proves that you're worthy of this because 'cause you're willing to have those questions about yourself. Rune, with his ego and his barking orders and all that, would never be able to pass this because he's not self-reflective enough to know how destructive he is.
I don't think he cares.
Mhm.
Self-reflection will only bring him, pain because he knows he's a horrible person deep down inside, and
Yeah.
he's trying to camouflage that by projecting all that stuff outward. Boy,
Yeah.
there's a lot of projection being talked about between you and me today, Dan.
I think so, yeah, absolutely. It's almost like it's an important theme.
I
Hmm.
know, right, and it's almost like we did another podcast earlier today, I don't know.
Yeah, weird.
Funny. Funny these recurring themes that would need to be hammered into people's heads because they just aren't getting it.
Mhm. So, yeah, she does pass the test with the self-reflection and all of that, but also this guide tells her something that she's going to need to know to get the technology at the end to be able to pass the final whatever it is. Um, any idea what that might be? That's interesting.
No,
I
but
have
it
no
has
clue.
something to do I absolutely know it has something to do with how to use the technology.
Hmm,
Not just gaining access, but also using it. Because
yeah.
there would have to be that one final failsafe, wouldn't there? It's like,
Mhm,
"Yeah, here's the technology, but do you know how to unlock it?"
hmm. Yeah, that
So
could
she's
be.
she's got the key. Like, that's what I'm thinking.
That makes sense. I honestly, yeah, I have no idea. And of course, they do the thing where they cut away before we know the thing, right? So
Yes, and what was with the never-ending bucket of sand?
I was like, "Ah, it's a mindscape. She's just gonna have all the sand in the world." I think that
It's
works.
just so funny, it's like 5 seconds ago, that thing was almost empty, now it's completely full again. Wow!
I just imagined it was, like, perpetually refilling or something. That was
Yeah,
my guess.
it's just funny. It was just funny to me. It's a never-ending sand, okay.
I like that she assumes right away that that's how it'll work because it's a big maze. Like, she's gonna get 15 meters down the thing and be like, "More sand?" And Book's gonna be like, "No, that's all there was." "Oh, well, poop." There you
Oh,
go. It's a TARDIS bucket. There you go.
yep, big side, definitely. It's just, it's actually, that's what it is. It's a portable hole. That's what it is. It's a portable
Mm,
hole that's
mhm.
full of sand. It's a D&D thing.
Yep.
Um, so
Reference
it's
acknowledged.
yeah, yeah, just a, a different dimension that can hold things, and the bucket is the opening. The
Mhm.
top of the bucket's the opening, and stuff just keeps pouring out.
I like it. Yeah.
But never put your portable hole in your bag of holding. You will cause
Oh
a
god.
quantum event. You don't wanna do that.
Oh boy. One thing I've been seeing people bring up, and I just wanna make sure that I remember to mention this, the fact that Doctor Who teased a Star Trek crossover in the last episode, it was just basically like, "Oh, it's like Star Trek. We need to visit those people sometime." Uh, Lovely little reference, I love that, and then this next episode takes place in a big library, which brings to mind some classic not classic Who, but, like, some fan favorite episodes of Doctor Who and stuff, so
Yeah, well, there is a whole episode called "Silence in the Library."
mhm, that's the one to which I'm referring, absolutely. So, interesting. I think in this case, just a coincidence.
Mm,
Like, I don't think the studios are talking that much about when their episodes are airing and all that stuff, but, it was a funny little it just puts you in the mind of it, and I like that.
yeah.
Okay, so again, I've already said that the Breen stuff just kind of serves to tick me off a little bit in this episode. I'm a little annoyed at some of the, like, machinations of the Breen stuff, like, the leader has to swear a sacred oath to burn him, and of
A
course he's
Tergoon.
Tergoon, and he's going to immediately break it, of course, because he's a bad guy and that's what he's gotta do, and we've gotta kinda fast forward to his crew turning on him. Um, I liked how it all played out, but again, I think we're feeling that rushed thing here where, like, that sort of a plot point feels like okay, we got to get them here. How do we do that? We can do this. Okay, cool. Moving on. And it's just a little bit frustrating because the Breen, I'm not seeing a lot of that strangeness in thinking that we've kind of been promised a little bit.
Mhm.
They seem to be written a little bit shorthand as kind of every other hierarchical, um, authority driven culture with a strong man in charge. I don't know. It's not like the worst thing in the world, but I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, connecting the dots and getting to where we need to be cool.
Yeah. I mean, they did show signs of him being a complete jerk early in the
Mhm.
season in
Oh,
the
for sure.
flashbacks, but this it's still rushed. It's still really rushed, and,
Mhm.
you know, honestly, you could just swap this whole thing out with Klingons or Orions, and
Yeah.
it's the same sort of attitude, the same sort of situation, and it doesn't do anything to really enrich our knowledge of the brain.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's unfortunate,
Yeah.
the jelly bean thing. I want some more exploration of that. I will never not call them that, by the way.
Yeah,
I love that so
it's
much.
amazing, and it makes me smile every time.
Yeah. But, yeah, kind of like we assumed, his selfishness and his ego, that's ultimately his undoing here. And I did like the little hints we see throughout the episode of, this one soldier kind of going like, "Mm," when he does something weird, and Maul noticing that and talking to him, and something else happening, and he turns towards Maul, and Rune even noticing that, but still not really cluing in that he's got this tenuous hold that can go at any time. And I did like when push came to shove, that guy pulled his weapon on Rune. And then, I have some issues with the whole mall thing, but that move was pretty cool.
Mm.
Taking him out like that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that she was the one that did it instead of one of the Breen,
Mhm.
simply because that means that she's not trying it's not like she's trying to take command per se, but she's not going to force, the rest of the people to kill their leader. She's gonna
Yeah.
do it because she can,
Mhm.
and because she wants to. I mean, that guy, massive jerk.
Yeah. Well, I think at that point also she had to. Like, she
Mhm.
was
Oh,
about to
absolutely.
die, basically.
It was definitely also a lot of self-preservation.
Mhm. Now, the one issue I have, and I kind of share Keith DeCandido's thoughts on this a little bit, where Maul and Locke, like, they were kind of these criminals on the run, that kind of thing. The fact that she's kind of now, ostensibly, it seems anyway, in control of an entire faction of the Breen and stuff, um, coupled with some of the things you said about her in the last episode, being able to easily take out Non and the security guards and stuff, they're a little overpowered. Like, she's a little overpowered at this point. Like, I don't know. I would have liked to have seen more of her background that maybe would justify the fact that she's kind of capable of all of this, but
Mm.
um I don't know. It's just riding that fine line where I'm like, "Oh, he made a really good point that she and Locke kind of reminded him of Honey Bunny and her partner in Pulp Fiction."
Mm.
And, like, at no point in that movie do you ever think they're going to, like, take command of a military regiment or something. And I'm like, "Yeah, I kinda get that." So, I don't know, it's just straining a little bit of credibility for me at this point. Um
Yeah. And I get that, but again, it's a casualty of too short of a season.
Mhm, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. Alright, well, so yeah, at the end, she's kind of in control of the Breen. We've got but before that, we've got, um Rune threatening the library with all of its, treasures, including a bunch of Breen artifacts, which causes some dissent among the ranks as well. But also, I gotta say, Discovery's ploy, making it seem like it was destroyed, that was brilliant and looked really good. I really liked that.
Yeah, and nobody had any idea what was going on except for Michael, and she did not have time to explain.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, and when it reappears and there's literal smoke coming off of it, I'm like, "No, my baby! What have you done?"
I saw some people referring to that as kind of the Adama maneuver because when it's coming into the atmosphere, very similar visuals when it, jumps back into space and it's just all smoking and stuff. That was pretty cool.
Mhm. Nice, very nice.
I loved the visual effects too of, so it jumps away and the explosion, and then, like, I had to pause just because I wanted to see when it appears up above, there's like an explosion and it drops down out of it. That's pretty cool.
Well done. Very
Yeah.
well done.
Can you imagine just like some, I don't know, freighter flying by that sector and they're like, "What the hell just happened there?"
And they were still 20 light years away from where they needed to be.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
so
and impulse engines, that's gonna take a long time. You can't
mhm.
wait.
Yeah, they gotta get going on those repairs, I think. So they have a couple of advantages. The fact that the Breen, I guess under the control of Maul now, don't know that they survived, first of all. And second, this bit of knowledge that she got from book about something at the end. So but the distance they have to make up is a little worrisome.
Yeah, it is interesting when the brain report that Discovery has been destroyed, the look on Maul's face. She's not happy about it. In
Mhm.
fact, she actually looks a little guilty.
Yeah. Well, because yeah, for a number of things, I think also book as well,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
kind of connection she was making there. Also, I like her not necessarily skepticism yet, but, like, confusion. She's
Mm,
like, "Why is Burnham doing this? Like, what's going on? Like, this doesn't make any sense." So I feel like if she pulled at that thread a little bit more and thought about it, might come to some different conclusions, but, I'm
yeah.
wondering if we'll see that play out in the next episode or not, but
Yeah. Well, she's obviously had a lifetime of people showing their horrible selves to her and not trusting anymore when someone appears to be helpful or someone
Mhm.
appears to want the best for her. She's not used to that from anyone but Locke.
Yeah.
So definitely, I can understand why she's wary, but she's still forming detachments despite all or attachments rather, despite all of her intent not to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and I feel like now she's like, "Ah, crap. I could have done something about that. I didn't have to let them die."
Mhm. I did also like I guess it should be said that all of the pieces are together now and they
Yes.
created this map. That was pretty cool. It's about what I expected to happen. Um, yeah. But now they've cataloged all of that, but now it's in the hands of the Breen as well. So they have that same information. So I don't know.
Yeah, and though Discovery has a head start, they're gonna end up being behind because they've got maybe 5 hours to effect
Mhm.
repairs and
Yeah.
either get warp drive or the jump drive back online. Spore drive, excuse me.
Uh,
And, that's not a lot of time for the damage they seem to have taken.
hopefully the spore drive.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah. So um Hysperians, we got a shout out to the Hysperians in this episode. That made me so happy. A Lower Decks reference, very nice.
Yes. And, yeah, Jet Reno, she knows how to party.
Absolutely, and so do the Hysperians, for sure.
Yeah, that's probably where she learned it.
Mhm.
Can't you just imagine her going to a Hyperion party going, "Oh, wow, so this is how you do it."
Huh, ruffles and capes, huh? I dig
Yeah.
it.
"Do you have actual horses? You have actual horses?"
Awesome. Well, I mean, I guess that's kind of where we're left with this episode. I don't know. What do you have anything that we haven't mentioned? Any final thoughts? And maybe a
Um,
rating for Labyrinths?
ugh, I'm thinking. I think I honestly, sometimes I get my episodes mixed up, but this is what happens when it's something where one the story flows into the next episode, and that I'm not complaining about that, don't get me wrong, but sometimes my brain is like, "Ooh, what?" Because like, I'm looking at when they're all, making noise and honoring, quote, unquote, if that's what you can call it, Locke. I'm like, "Why don't you have his body on ice? If you're going to bring him back, you need to keep him from decomposing.
Maybe.
Please, put him in the fridge."
Yeah. Well, if it's a Genesis type thing, maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, even so, why take chances? Why
Yeah.
take chances? Besides, he's gonna start smelling. I mean, I know he's a jelly bean, but jelly bean, but
Mhm.
still, there's gotta be smells associated with decomposition.
Mhm.
So, I'm just like, why? That's basically my thought.
Oh, a couple of things that I forgot to mention. Um, okay, we didn't talk much about Rayner and Book's kind of two-man
Oh,
defense of
right.
the library, which
Mhm.
good job. Whew. They're not to be trifled with, I guess. But my favorite thing that we haven't mentioned is Adira and Stamets and their I call it their warp particles moments because that was like second episode of Voyager, B'Elanna and Captain Janeway. Warp
More
particles.
particles.
It's the most
Mhm.
ridiculous thing, but I loved that they got two of those in this episode, and even Jet being like, "And now do it again."
Yeah, she's like, "I love it when you guys do that."
That was really good. That was pretty funny. Yeah, warp particles moment. That's what that will forever be known as. But yeah, anyway, sorry. Final thoughts and rating. I apologize.
Um, this episode had too much in it, and it could have been extended out into a couple episodes, I think, but again, that's as it is, we can't change that, but I feel like it was really rushed. It felt rushed. And hurtling towards the end, I mean, I figured that it would take a little while to collect all of the parts because there's 5 parts and we're in episode 8,
Mhm.
and now they've finally got the last part. So, I, I I really I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I don't know what form the progenitor's tech is going to take. I don't know how it's going to work. And I kinda like not being able to predict exactly what's going to happen, even though this is stuff that came out of TNJ. TNJ? Wow, TNJ. Am I drunk? No, I don't actually drink during the day. I'm not a day drinker, folks, I promise. I'm just really, really tired. So, I, I there's some things that niggle, but, the library, just just seeing that library was enough to really just put this in make it a good thing for me. Put and books, books the guide, not, the real book. David Ajala's performance as that character, chef's kiss, of course.
Mhm.
So, I will give this, uh, 1 giant crystal with the last piece inside of it.
Hmm, nice. They could have saved a few seconds by just taking the crystal with them and smashing it on the ship. Just saying.
Mhm. Well, she
Anyway,
had to make sure it was really there,
that's
that she was
true.
right,
That's
She
true, I
wasn't
guess.
she had to make sure she had it in her hands.
Yeah. I enjoyed this episode. I really liked the library stuff way more than the Breen stuff. The Breen stuff again, like you said, it's feeling rushed. It's feeling like shorthand to kind of get us to where we need to be, which is unfortunate. Um, but it is what it is, and I'm hoping. I can't believe there's only 2 episodes left. It does
Mhm.
not feel like this season is almost at an end, which is blowing my mind. But very nice.
Best rating
It's
ever.
pretty good. That's pretty good. Oh, man. But yeah, I'm gonna have to give this episode I was gonna say one really big oubliette, but, I'm gonna have to change that now to, one big impressive Adama maneuver. That was, yeah.
It is a great visual. It really is.
Mhm. Absolutely. So yeah, that's episode 8, just 2 episodes left, which again blows my mind. But it looks like episode 10 they've said is a little longer than the average episode because of course of the extra stuff they filmed for it. So how much longer I may or may not know, but we'll see when we get there. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you all so much for joining us. Really appreciated it. And I guess we'll see you next week for the next episode. And until then, as always, thank you for joining us and live logs and proper.
And
Or
live long and prosper. All of
exactly
the things.
all the things.
All the things.
Click that like button. Yay. Thanks. Thanks, David. All right. Bye, everybody.